Let me give you another example of how this is evident. I'm going to give you an example of a ketchup company found in the Midwest. This is an actual case scenario that we tracked over a 10-year period of time. At the beginning of this period, this company was doing $100 million a year in sales and had 960 employees. 1 year later, one of the customers requested a barcoded label. Rather than purchasing new equipment to do that specialized printing, they farmed that out to a company that already had the printing equipment. They also recognized in the process it really was more efficient to have that company do all of the label printing and all of the other printing. Consequently, they let 20 printing employees go. 2 years later, this company wanted a specialized bottle cap. Again, rather than bringing that equipment in, they had the manufacturer of the cap originally go ahead and produce it for them. Those are the kind of things that were happening over a 10-year period. And I'll quickly take you to the 10-year resolution that we saw. 10 years later, that company had increased their gross sales from $100 million to $300 million a year. But at the same time, they had changed their employee numbers from 960 to 25 employees. Now keep in mind what happened. They tripled their gross sales, tripled the revenues for the company. However, they diminished the employee numbers from 960 to 25. That's a discouraging thing to a lot of people, but it really doesn't need to be, because a difference in the number of employees does not mean that those people were sitting on a curb somewhere. It means that there were new kinds of opportunities that were spawned off by the restructuring of that major company. That's the kind of thing we're seeing increasingly in today's work environment. What we have to be aware of is how the opportunities are changing as a result of that. Let's look at some other specifics here, just to give you the kind of feel for what we're dealing with in this change. The average job in America, we know, is now about 3.2 years in length. What that means is that the average American worker coming into the workplace today will have 14 to 16 different jobs in his or her working lifetime. Because of that, we have to get away from the thinking that we're going to find the one right job. That's not even the process anymore, to find the right one job that you're going to stay with for the next 30 years. We just know that the odds of that happening are very, very slim. What you have to do is understand yourself, so there's a sense of continuity in what you do. Stephen Covey in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People said the only way we can handle change is to know what's changeless about us. So let's deal with that a little bit more. Time magazine reports that we're losing jobs at the rate of about 4,000 every day. That means about 1.5 million jobs are being lost every year. And that's what we hear about, just like the recent announcement by General Motors that they're eliminating 25,000 people. Other major companies are doing the same. However, we don't hear as much about small businesses creating over 2 million new jobs each year. Now that's an increase of about 5,480 new jobs every day. That far outweighs the 4,000 that are being lost in corporate America. So we just have to look at again, where are these new opportunities coming from? The question comes then, is losing a position good or bad? Now that really is a legitimate question and something that each of you have to evaluate if you're confronted with a job change or loss. Is losing a position good or bad? This reminds me of a story that I heard recently about a farmer standing out in a field with a rope in his hand. And he couldn't for the life of him remember if he had found a rope or lost a cow. It can be good or bad in the same sense, but this farmer isn't sure if it's good or bad, whatever happened. Some of you may be looking at where you are career-wise in much the same way. Frequently, and this will come as no surprise, and as much as it may be devastating to go through a career change, it's not uncommon for somebody 6 months or a year later to say, you know, that was really the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to look at my priorities, to reestablish what I really wanted to accomplish, and then I created a new plan to go in a new direction. Wayne Gretzky, the great hockey player, was once asked why he was such an outstanding player. His answer conveys a philosophy that is applicable as we look at the changing workplace. Wayne said, "It's simple. I went to where the puck was going to be." Obviously, the average player sees a puck and goes directly toward it. Wayne went to where the puck was going to be. Yes, that perspective can help us in this rapidly changing work environment. Here's another thing that will play into the whole process. We know this about college graduates. 10 years after graduation, 80% of college graduates are working in something totally unrelated to their college degree. Now let's put that in perspective. We know that a college degree, say an undergraduate degree, is part of the maturing process. It shows self-discipline, it does show commitment, it has a lot of value in that respect. But don't think that it forces you into a very narrow career track from which there's no escape, because normally that's not true. We know that many people redirect after receiving a bachelor's degree in a particular area, that they redirect into a different career at some point in their life because of all the changes that are going on, and that's fine. With the upcoming changes, it's difficult, actually it's impossible to accurately choose the one right degree. Predictions are that 50% of the jobs that we'll have 6 years from now have not yet been created. And we're rapidly approaching the time where 50% of the workforce will be contract or contingency labor. The Bureau of Labor Statistics predicts that 3 years from now, fully 50% of the American workforce will be contract labor, contingency workers, temps, consultants, entrepreneurs, and so on. Bank America Corporation estimates that in another 2 years, fewer than 19% of its workers will be full-time. The rest will be part-time.